you probably die. Like it's probably going to happen, especially with feather setup from Xayah. It's just going to be the case. So that I think is the true threat. Is just that like yes, Bel'Veth probably gets poked out at least a little bit. That's why you go for bone plating. You go for some additional sustain in that regard. But once that's done, and once you have the potential threat of all in, especially with Killer Queen to bottom side, then you have to be a lot more careful if you're the double marksman.
Would you like to know a fun stat about B's Bel'Veth support?
Is it that it has won game and it has lost one time?
No.
Is it that it has...
the only competitive loss for Bel'Veth support over a total of 5 games that has been played across the LJL and the CB LOL.
Busted champion, by the way. Dude, all of our play-in regions? Pog. Our plans for MSI and for Worlds is about to go crazy with this Bel'Veth support.
So B will be wanting to get on to the win, or at least picking up some wins. So I'm just looking at what some other people have been itemizing on this Bel'Veth support. So we have seen for B, he actually went, yes, Anathemas and Evan Shroud.
Yeah, even Shroud is pretty typical.
However, in the CB LOL Academy, we've been seeing some Jack Show the Proton and actually a rush on what did they call it? Steel shoulder guard? No, not steel shoulder guards. Dead Man's Plate.
Yes. Yeah, I think a lot of that makes sense. So Dead Man's Plate would be for roaming potential. If there's a relatively free bottom lane, this would be like if you're playing it with Varus or Ezreal and they can kind of stay back and they can farm relatively freely, that's perfectly fine. The reason for Even Shroud or for Jack Show is because you're living in the middle of the team trying to CC people. This is the setup I was talking about where B and Vit have already downed a summoner spell. Guri's in a perfect position though because you are counter ganking right now to ensure that they can't actually come in. So I want to see Guri hang around for a second. If nothing else, he's gonna get spotted out on the... Oh, he actually doesn't get spotted out on the ward. Okay, good for them, because again, that means that the defensive Killer Queen is no longer necessary. They don't know where the opposing jungler is. Here we go.
However, Killer Queen straight into the mid lane forces Froggy to flash away defensively, and Killer Queen knows that he was spotted out by a Saigon Buffalo water, making his way straight up to the top side to pick up a Scuttle Crab and maybe even look for a gank onto Hasmid.
Yeah. Okay. Do you notice? Is Guri took 3 normal camps. Has not taken either buff yet.
Interesting.
Huh? I don't think I've ever seen that before. Is this some sort of new advanced jungle pathing that I'm not familiar with?
Maybe he's just looking to try to make his way down towards the bottom side very quickly in anticipation of this Killer Queen gank. Sure,
but you hit level 3 by taking one of your buffs. So if you had red buff and then you were on bottom side, you would have matched what Killer Queen had, and maybe there's a chance of you actually being able to fight back. But without red buff, like you would be down a pretty significant margin of strength that just doesn't exist. And now also you have to worry that like the buffs are going to reset a lot later. So like, is this intentional? I don't know whether there's some sort of jungle change that makes this beneficial for Guri, but.
Killer Queen once again looking towards this mid lane, and you look towards that CS discrepancy now between the junglers at around 10. Killer Queen doesn't know that he could just invade into Guri's jungle, which would probably be very effective right now, as Glory just trying to find a potential angle for a charm. Can't find it, and Killer Queen's going to make his way towards his bottom side camps.
Yeah, you can see they've been trying to the best of their abilities to make something happen against Froggy. Glory's been ganked a couple of times now just to see. Killer Queen is just trying to get something to stick. I think Killer Queen is more or less the focus of this early game. You're probably not going to win on you're not going to win out of mid lane just outright. The top lane probably going to be a bit even. Hasmid should be able to trade effectively, but Nagia, there's always the possibility. It's Kasami. There's a lot of potential for solo kills to come through. But more than likely, if it's going to come from anywhere, it's going to come from access for Killer Queen, like the olden days of Killer Queen being kind of the dictator around the map, doing as best as possible to take some of the early first blood. But it hasn't stuck yet, which is a good thing. Saigon slowing things down, making sure the lanes are going to play out the way they expect them to.
So I do have to ask as well, that Bel'Veth game that we saw from B against Cerberus, was it B who played badly, or was he just an unfortunate bystander in Cerberus as a whole outplaying Wales?
I don't see B necessarily having been the problem. It was a lot more of a team gap than anything else. Not that I think that the Bel'Veth was particularly like insane. It's not like Bel'Veth was like trying to hard carry the game or anything like that. It was just more of a Gam was doing well across the map. Like Gam was fine. So Bel'Veth actually did okay, if I recall. And he was like 2 and 4. Something was the stat line. Had some decent damage as well. Like the damage per gold for that game was kind of nutty for B, which is kind of just the whole racket of having the Bel'Veth support. But again, it's not like it was keeping the game alive for Team Wales.
Still, first blood on the cards for both Team Wales and Saigon Buffalo. Fairly sizable CS lead starting to emerge for the Buffaloes, as Guri able to secure the first objective of the game, being that Chemtech Drake.
Yeah, this is a game that mimics the style that I think that Saigon Buffalo wants to play, which is dominating bot lane. You want a solo lane that's doing fine. You want a solo lane that's going to be quiet. And then normally you want a really quiet jungle matchup where it's like, okay, you don't have to be super active as Guri. You don't have to do a bunch. Here, Guri has had one counter gank that didn't end up leading to anything because Killer Queen wasn't able to actually even step into bottom side. This is effectively a farming jungler, right? Now, he's not on a farming jungler, but he's effectively playing like a farming jungler where the early game is super quiet, hasn't been able to find any sort of early ganks because you're not really looking for them all that much. And the lanes themselves are just kind of playing themselves out the way you would want them to as Saigon Buffalo. This is how they want every game to play out, whether or not it's the Lee Sin or not. Now, I will say the Lee Sin's losing some value, obviously not getting any early aggression, but you can wait till 6, you can start kicking people and maybe then start making looks, especially with Froggy hitting level 7, gonna have the ultimate available, could jump on top of Guri at any point.
And Team Wales probably just waiting for an opportunity to really be able to skirmish effectively. We're seeing Shogun and Taki really abusing the fact that they have that Comet, they have that Hail of Blades, a lot of poke in the early stages of the game, and Team Wales recognizing that they don't have any significant lane priority anywhere to flex an advantage or take a fight just yet.
At all, which is a weird kind of dynamic that we're at. That it feels like a very quiet game from both sides, for out of necessity almost, where it's like Saigon wants to play super slow, but how do you force things as Team Wales? Because again, you got CC in a couple of places, but you don't really you have to have Killer Queen there for early action to really kind of take effect more than anything else. So that's why bottom lane right now, yes, Bel'Veth support exists and is able to get on top of these two, but I don't think you're winning a pure 2v2 against these this Varus Ashe combination without landing some amount of poke, without forcing one of them in, especially with all their summoner spells. It's very unlikely you're going to win that 2v2. And you're not winning mid lane outright because you're playing Ahri into Galio. You're not winning top lane, at least not right now. You're not winning top lane. Nagia hasn't been able to find a solo kill on K'Sante. And so, Team Wales is kind of treading water, too. We're in a position where, Saigon has not sped up the game because they don't feel the need to, and they want to play a little bit more slowly. And Team Wales is, they're treading water because they have no other options. They're waiting for their jungler to come online, but so far, Killer Queen just hasn't been all that active. And in the meantime, 3 plates going down on the bottom side are really, really big. No other plates anywhere else. It's just an advantage for these 2 marksmen on the bottom side.
However, while Guri is on the bottom side of the map, Killer Queen is on the top side, and Team Wales have found an angle to secure a Rift Herald. Enchanted Crystal Arrow instantly cleansed by Vit. Sonic Wave lands, and surely Guri is going to go in, and down goes the Xayah, but Glory in for the rescue. Makes it a 1-for-1, and Froggy too late with the hero's entrance speed, trying to potentially turn this one around. Can't do anything in a 1v3, and Glory can't follow up. Now dashing on in, lands the charm onto Shogun, but there are still minions under the tower, and Shogun will not take any tower aggro.
Yep, and the tower will go down as well because it's double marksman. There's not enough wave clear. I do not imagine for Glory. There's going to be a bit of coverage here to make sure that there is no Wukong gang coming in, which is not the case, or at least it's going to be a little too far out, so nothing to be had. Yeah, in fact, actually, I think Killer Queen was waiting for Froggy to walk back up into mid lane, but was not able to do so. So now has actually lost a chance to potentially push mid lane and punish Froggy a little harder. This was good. Again, the Enchanted Crystal Arrow combined with the other arrow. Look at that damage on the Fit. What are you supposed to do? The immediate jump in from Guri. Yeah, I mean, maybe he just wasn't expecting the jump in from Guri because Guri was basically sacrificing his life right there. But Vit might have just misplayed slightly. And then also delivering Froggy into a position where B was going to get stuck under the tower. Oh,
Nagia just takes a tower shot from Harsman and Enchanted Crystal Arrow from Taki just to make sure that Nagia would have died. But Harsman will take the kill, and Nagia will just give her little Ramus thumbs up.
And just like that, 2,000 gold advantage for Saigon Buffalo. The win on bottom side, the early abuse with the double in here, the win on top side for Hosmed, who's again on a more comfortable champion than what we've seen for the majority of the split. Got to give tons of props. This team is looking much better. Again, when it's not Guri centric on the beginning of the game, and they're not relying on a lot of early jump pressure to kind of win the game, this is where they've looked a lot better. Saigon Buffalo at every loss has gone 3 full games, and they've always had a game where they do this, where the game is not continued on the jungler, end up crushing because their lanes are going really well, and then they just end up winning the game off of it because they're feeling a lot more confident. They're feeling a lot more like the regular Saigon Buffalo. This is interesting because Nagia took tower shots and kind of misplayed pretty hard, I would say, in a lot of circumstances, pushing himself into tower and losing a bunch of his health bar, taking a tower shot, all that stuff.
Now, let's not forget, while it is a 2k goal lead for Saigon Buffalo, Team Wales do still have... They don't have a Rift Herald. Where did they use a Rift Herald?
That is a great question, because they must have dropped it mid because there's 2 plates off mid tower. Although, in fairness, I think Vit stepped into mid lane immediately after that play on bottom side, so that's probably where those 2 plates went. So I do not know where the Rift Herald got dropped.
Either way, B looking for a potential engage. Taki's forced to flash away. Charm will not land on it to anyone, and Team Wales will just back away. All the while, Harsmed and Nagia just chilling in the top lane, doing top laner things, just trading some small health bars. And Enchanted Crystal Arrow will land onto Vit at the Feather Storm, and there is just no way out. Will flash away, just about to survive. Winds of War from Snoggy, from Froggy will snipe him down.
What? Vit is like, he has to be trolling. Like, he has Flash and he has Featherstorm, and he uses neither to avoid the majority of that CC. I'm really lost as to what has happened with Vit and the Xayah. Like, the Xayah has so many defensive tools in a game like this, and just has not used any of them to their fullest extent for the last 2 fights, which is a little bit criminal in my mind. Just, it feels like they easily could be.
That's not the angle, buddy. So, game 1, we saw Shogun playing the Xayah with Sums and ult up, but not playing aggressively when he had a way to get out. And here in game 2, we're seeing Vit playing aggressively with his summoners up, but then not using his summoners or his spells to stay alive.
Yeah, so let's take another look at this, because, okay, I get it as Vit. Right here, can you Featherstorm, can you Flash if you have good reaction speed? And then it's like you're just kind of stuck in place, so I don't know. Maybe that was the case. It was really well layered CC if the stun had come through, but probably should have burnt something on the front end of that rather than anything else, which I think is my #1 complaint. But you do have to react in time, which is, our expectations are set high because these are professional players, but again, I get the human reaction of not being able to kind of react to that arrow fast enough, and then you're stunned into the Varus ultimate, then you press your Flash, then you press you just getting out of dodge. But at that point, I feel like you just save those 2 and you just give the kill away, because at that point, you're just wasting summoner spells.
Team Wales slowly slipping further and further behind. Now 3.5k gold behind the Buffaloes, who do have 2 Drakes and will be looking for their 3rd Drake of the game in 3 minutes time, which will take them to Cloud Soul Point if they are able to secure it. Still waiting as well for Vit and B to complete their first items.
We are. They're very behind in a game like this, which, again, this is, I think, one of the preferable kind of setups for Saigon Buffalo is having Taki and Shogun in a winning matchup. Like, Shogun has picked up Varus, I think, quite a bit better than we would have thought he to have been before the split. I don't know if he did much Varus prior to this. I never pictured him as much of a Varus player. He was always like the Jinx and the Kaisa, these hyper carry types, as opposed to the Varus, which doesn't do that as much. But I think is really well acquainted with the Varus as of this. So when you're pairing it with something that Taki just wins the lane with by having this range advantage, I mean, you're usually feeling really good. And like, the Nautilus is great, don't get me wrong. Taki's a good Nautilus player. But like, you don't win the lane nearly as hard as with something like the Ashe when you have this range advantage and you can take advantage of the support matchup. So generating that is one of the big things that, to me, Saigon has to be doing. And they haven't done that perfectly over the course of the split. But again, when they've been able to do it, it has looked really good.
Saigon Buffalo just, another really good Enchanted Crystal Arrow from Taki. Froggy, though, won't be able to follow up on it. We do have a Rift Herald spawning in a few seconds' time, and Saigon Buffalo looking to get some control over the topside river so that they are appropriately set up for it.
Ooh. Yeah, I was like, at some point they're going to jump into this fight that's happening right now, because there's a lot of brawling right now going on for Vision in this topside river. As Team Wales, I'm surprised they're going.
Killer Queen is flashing forward, will land a Cyclone, kicked away though by Guri. Team Wales won't aggress any further. Both top laners are recalling. They both have teleport available, although Nagia won't have to use his because he's already in the river.
Okay, interesting. Without Flash, without ultimate from Killer Queen, they're missing a decent amount of their tools. They still have a way to get Galio into the midst of this team as well. If everybody shows up here, yeah, there's a teleport as well. They're just going to be showing up in spades. And now Team Wales, they have no bearing. And they're also missing members out of the mid lane, so like they might just blitz down mid tower as well, just kind of gain everything here. Saigon Buffalo. Vit!
Uses the cleanse, and then the piercing arrow just takes half of Vit's health bar away. Be almost getting tagged by Froggy's taunt on the Galio. And again, that time I feel like I can forgive Vit because maybe he thought he was safe and he was far back. And he instantly cleansed it. It's like,
no, he didn't instantly cleanse it, which is the worst part. And then he has Featherstorm, which is a lower cooldown, and he's got Gale Force, which is a lower cooldown. Milky, this guy has every possible fathomable way to dodge a damn Ashe ultimate, and homie's not pressing his buttons.
Maybe the buttons aren't working.
What do you mean the buttons aren't working?
I don't know.
I'm not trying to harp on this too crazy, but like at this point, like I'm starting to blame Vit a lot more than he probably like you can't get hit with this many Ashe ultimates and just not be ready for it at this point. Taki's just gunning him down.
Look, to quote a very famous interview in Formula One, what would you like to see for the future? More buttons, less buttons? Are too many buttons too complicated to use? Don't worry, Beast will get that. Beast will get that.
That's great. I'm glad the one person in our audience that gets it will be enjoying.
Yes. No,
just like our chess references.
No, you have to be cultured though to get that. It's
you have to be cultured.
It's
my
a good
bad.
meme. Yeah.
My bad. I forgot that racing sim was in the esports Olympics and League of Legends is not. So.
Yeah, but don't even get me started about it. Please don't get me started about
I'm not gonna
that.
start anybody. Everybody's angry about it. Okay, we
literally every single person. They put just dance.
Don't want to hear it. Don't want to hear it. Don't want to hear it.
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
But you can't bring it up and then be like, I don't want to hear it. Anyway, Rift Herald has been dropped into the mid lane, and Charlie Crystal Arrow is making his way down. Teleport from Team Wales. They really want to commit to this play. They really want to get the Rift Herald charging forward. They get one tower. They're going to look for potentially a second. Unless the eye can get hit, it will not. Froggy, though, stepping forward right into an ever-frozen Killer Queen coming over the wall with a Cyclone. Froggy goes golden. Won't get tagged out by the knockup, but Team Wales with the follow-up. Good charm will land onto Shogun. Forced to flash away defensively, and now Harsman is making his way into the backline, looking towards the Vit as the Blade Caller is denied by the Hallowed Mist. But in goes Nagira, and a great follow-up from Glory. Shut down onto Shogun. And again, Team Wales are displaying fantastic team-fighting ability. Over the wall goes Glory, looking for Harsman and Guri, who are on the run. This time the charm, though, won't land, and Saigon Buffalo will be able to escape with 2 members falling.
And this time, I think it's just a super well-executed team fight from Team Wales. Actually, honestly, it's not even the team fight that they won. It's more the retreat. Okay.
Oh, no. Guri over the wall, gets the kill onto Killer Queen, steals away
Where you going?
And now on the hunter for Glory. Guri comes out on top with a double kill.
Okay, there we go, Guri. All right, we're getting a bit more of a look at the Lee Sin. He's gonna not be able to actually tag the Xayah, so not gonna be able to grab anything except for the girl here. But a cleanup on the backside of this fight actually gets so much more than they probably deserved in this one. Froggy, little too antsy there, but little too fancy at the beginning of this. I did like Guri's kick. Getting out was, again, blocking Froggy's exit here was really wild. I thought Hosman's flank was going to do some ridiculous damage right here, but unfortunately the scatter to the wind I think was really, really well played by the rest of Team Wales, because there was just nowhere to put that ultimate. And then Nagia on this massive Cassandra is able to find an assassination and just scatters the rest of Saigon to the wind. They don't have their primary damage dealer, so picking up 2 kills on the backside of that fight was huge to clutch out something, because you get at least a bit of gold back in return for that big play out of the mid lane that Team Wales had forced on.
And as a result, Saigon Buffalo maintain themselves a 3k gold lead. They're on for Cloud Soul as well in 2 minutes' time. And when you're thinking about those ultimate cooldowns for the likes of a Varus, for the likes of an Ashe, even for Froggy as well, those are some big cooldowns.
They're big cool. Well, okay. What do you mean by big cooldowns? Do you mean they are important, or do you mean that they are large cooldowns? Okay, because I'm like, they are not long cooldown. Like, this Ashe ultimate's probably going to be up in like 30 seconds.
Yeah, and now it'll be up in like 22 seconds.
That's what I'm saying. As they tick up further and further at level 11, like, that's going to get even better. Shogun also can kind of fish with Chains of Corruption, which is why I think Saigon Buffalo grand scheme is okay with, like, even if team fights aren't going great, they have a lot of potential pick tools. Like they've got Guri's kick if you're able to find a good insect. You got Froggy being able to jump in. You've got Shades of Corruption. You got Enchanted Crystal Arrow. All these additional pick tools that Saigon Buffalo have mean that it is difficult to get a purely fair 5-on-5 team fight. Team Wales was able to dig one out because they were able to force up mid lane with Rift Herald and force a defensive kind of posturing from Saigon Buffalo, and then kite backwards, which is the benefit of their composition. Bel'Veth does that well, Xayah does that well, Ahri does that well, even K'Sante I think does that pretty well comparative to some other tanks and bruisery type champions. So they found themselves a really good situation and capitalized on it perfectly, but I do have my hesitation to say that that's something that they can rely on consistency in this game.
Well, our answers, I'm sure, will be answered in about... Did I say
our
answers will be answered? No, our answers will be questioned, or maybe our questions will be answered in a minute's time. For the questions will always remain as questions, and maybe they will transcend into answers for us. But Saigon Buffalo will be eagerly awaiting the arrival of the Cloud Drake. Team Wells will have to find a way to defend. They were able to win that previous fight, although Guri, with a rather heroic performance, was able to find 2 kills on the back end in, say, a skirmish that was completely unrelated to the initial fight.
You could say unrelated. I would say it's the same fight because it happened directly afterwards, chronologically. That's fine. You don't have to.
You literally just said it happened afterwards, so it's part of something different.
Okay, wait. Is farming this wave? If you farm that minion after the other one, does that mean he wasn't farming the minion wave the whole time because it happened after? That's what I thought. Yeah,
okay, that's a good point.
Yeah, I'm the greatest. I know, it's fine.
I mean, let's be honest. Game 2 is part of Game 1 as well because it happens directly after Game 1.
You know what they call that? They call it a series. That's what we're casting right now.
Right. Yes, they had a series of fights, and Guri won the second fight of the series.
I mean, you could say that in some circumstance. Yeah, sure, I'll take that I'll take that, and I'll take it as a win too. Well, okay. Why do we get 2 control wards there? That's a bigger question for me. That's like 150 gold just sitting there doing nothing. I know they probably cleared a ward with it. You'd think they would communicate about who to play. Yeah, you see that ward to the right? That's what they're looking for. It's somehow
they just want to give gold over to Glory. That's all that's happening.
That's what I'm saying.
Wells, they're actually going to sneak away a Drake, and Saigon Buffalo aren't aware of this, so Saigon Buffalo not contesting their sole point. Or they are, but they just don't care.
They probably know, and they probably don't care, because they're looking for either a fight setup or a setup around the Baron or something like that. And
they don't quite rush Baron.
There we go. Okay.
Enchanted Crystal Arrow, tagged up by Nagia.
Yeah, well played by Nagia, just being able to use the W to unstoppable through it. Now they're going to walk Baron, which I think now you can turn off of it, and I think it's a lot better because you don't have to chase. The big thing about Team Wales is if they're on Baron and they start kiting off of it, that's when the danger comes in. So if you're Saigon Buffalo and you're forcing them to kite backwards away from Baron, then you just turn for Baron. So it's a great position to be in if you're Saigon Buffalo to grab. It's the right decision to actually be the first one on the objective so that if the enemy starts fleeing, which is the benefit, again, if you're Xayah, if you're Bel'Veth, if you're Ahri, and you're running away, you're still doing damage pretty well on the kite back. If you're kiting away, you're going to lose the dragon, or you're going to lose the objective, whatever it might be. So I like that strategy from Saigon Buffalo. They did give up a dragon for what seems like very little, but they did keep mid-pressure. They do have an entrenchment inside the top river. They've got some things to work with. I don't think it's quite enough kind of compensation, but it's at least something. They didn't get nothing from that. But Team Wales finding that dragon to slow down the inevitable march of the soul point that Saigon Buffalo has built to at this point.
And it gives them a few extra minutes to try to scale up. And fit now on 2 items. Navori Quick Blades completed, as is the Gale Force. Glory on 2 items as well. Looking towards that Zhonya's Hourglass, and Nagia slowly becoming tankier and tankier on this K'Sante. Getting better and better. Able to live inside of everything. A lot of magic resist necessary because obviously with Gwen, you have to worry about just getting kind of ripped through. So K'Sante, specifically Nagia, he's indexed into more magic resistance than normally you would see. Normally you'd see like Thornmail, you'd see something else. But in this case, the K'Sante, I think, is a well-warranted amount of magic resist, given that Hosmed now almost like 2.5 items as the blasting wand and everything else is going to be feeling good. Speaking of Nagia, here he is in the bottom lane, and Glory's just hovering around, waiting for an opportunity to Spirit Rush over the wall. Killer Queen is here, and Glory now deciding to go in, dashing forward, lands the charm, lands the Everfrost. Surely they get killed. They do indeed. Tower damage doing a lot of work onto Nagia. 2-man talk comes through, knocked up by Froggy. Glory will fall. Nagia is going to fall as well. He's on the run, but he's got nowhere to go. A lot of movement speed, and will be able to use the Rift just to try to get away. But Guri over the wall picks up the kill. And in the end, 3 members of Team Wales die as they try to get a pick onto Hosmed.
Yeah, not only that, but like again, caught in the jungle in the midst of everything was Killer Queen. Now they just run it Baron, and what are you to do if you're Vit and B? Like you could run in with Featherstorm, and you could run in with the ultimate from Bel'Veth and try to make things happen, but like you're not winning this almost certainly unless you like coin flip and end up grabbing the Baron away from the smite from Guri, who has it available readily to go. I just like you're not gonna have time for Nagia. Yeah, this is probably not the right choice. Like you just run away. Yeah. A very, very hard play that just loses the game almost feels like for Team Wales, where it's an extremely winning situation now for Saigon Buffalo, where like, again, what was the benefit? You killed Hosmed, sure. But like, why are you doing this? Like, there's no reason to do. They're walking towards Baron. Notice that there's three members kind of posturing towards Baron right now.
Saigon Buffalo are on the other side of the map at this point.
Yeah. And they're like, okay, we get this. But like, the trade-off is, okay, we give Baron for a pick under the tower, maybe the tower, and also with the cross map that's available, even if Guri's the only one here, if Froggy's close enough to ult, like, you probably get a kill in return anyway. And then here's Killer Queen trying to escape because Killer Queen came over the wall, just runs directly into both marksmen. Like, I'm so lost as to what the idea was here from Team Wales, because they're like, okay, it's like they put everything into killing Hosmed, and they're like, okay, now what? It's like, oh, I didn't think that far ahead. Didn't think we'd get this far. My bad.
Well, Saigon Buffalo with a Baron buff are now pushing in the mid lane. The 1+ right now for Team Wales is that they do still have all of their base intact and two inner towers intact, at least until Hosmed looks towards this bottom lane inner tower, and that's going to fall very quickly. Saigon Buffalo extending their gold lead now to 5,000, actually 6,000 gold ahead.
The deep flank from Glory. He teleported onto a mid lane ward and will not gank either. There's backing coming through right now. There's actually 3 members up for Saigon Buffalo, despite the dragon coming up, which I'm a little shocked about. Froggy can always enter with the ultimate, so I'm not shocked that Froggy's here. Yeah, only just now Shogun and Taki kind of remade their path up towards mid lane because they were like trying to redeploy, trying to figure out where Ari had gone, where Glory was. I want to see everybody stay on the map though, because again, Dragon's going to be up here. They have a ridiculous amount of setup around this dragon. Just take the soul point. Like, you're okay with that.
Well, Drake is up in a few seconds' time, and Saigon Buffalo are already in the bottom lane river, and it doesn't look like Team Wales are going to be looking to contest this.
Hosmed, what are you doing? Oh, okay, he's clearing to make sure that there's nobody in the jungle waiting for him to die. No, yeah, he can teleport, but he's not walking to top lane to try to deny Nagia, because I think he's terrified of getting ganked right here, which is fair, because they did do it to him before, but now he doesn't have the cross-map support. He has Gallia, that's about it, so, actually, an arrow.
Yeah, arrow to the top side, but I think once again, Hosmed is going to die, but this time, Team Wales won't die on the back end of the play, so Wales will get the kill and now look towards the top lane inner tower. That up as well. So it's not a total loss for Wales, but Saigon Buffalo do pick up the Cloud Soul.
See, I think this is what their intention was with the other side of the map. The only thought was, okay, Baron's going to take a lot longer to take, and so we should be able to respond to it in the right circumstance. But last time, Saigon Buffalo said, okay, we take Baron, so let's just lean into their play, and then they make the defense happen. As opposed to this time, where they're like, oh, let's just grab Cloud Soul. Because now, you know, we have a Gwen with Cloud Soul, we have a Lee Sin and a Gallia with Cloud Soul. These extra move speed is going to go absolutely dummy on a number of our champions, so they don't care. Like, they don't care. I think Hosmed honestly should have dumped it ultimate in the wave and then just walked away so that there was no chance of the tower going down, instead of walking up like this, because he had cleared with a sweeper to say, okay, nobody's here, and then after the sweeper was down, walked to the top lane, and that's when people could walk in. There was no contest on the dragon. They kind of had an inkling of okay, if nobody's down here, where could they possibly be? How about the only place on the map that somebody else is showing for Saigon Buffalo?
10 kills to 5 for the Buffalo. They still lead, but the gold deficit, or their gold advantage, has dwindled down to 3,000. And Vit now has a little bounty. Vampiric Scepter picked up, as well as the tier 2 boots, and Glory slowly but surely becoming stronger and stronger. Now has a Blighted Jewel that will presumably be building in towards a Void Staff.
I don't think it builds in anything else. Clown.
Is that the only thing?
Yes.
So I guess we could say I was correct then.
I believe you were not correct, because you said it's probably going into Void Staff when it was definitely going into Void Staff.
I mean, maybe he's just buying the component. He could just look to sell it.
That is true. I mean, he could look to sell it. He could also look to hold it, but I doubt that, because there is a decent amount of resistance to be had on this team to make sure. You just need more damage on the Ahri. It's a pretty low damage Ahri build, actually. You got the double pen now, so you're going to start hitting a little harder, but again, with like a Banshees and with an Everfrost, you know, this isn't Ludens. It's not like a Dark Seal with like the Magi stacks or anything like that. It's Glory, who hasn't been hitting that hard over the course of the game. Bloodthirster done as well for Vit. That's a decent play. Although we haven't seen Shogun really interact with anybody on the side of Team Wales for a hot minute. There was that one kill against Killer Queen earlier, but outside of that, we haven't seen the arrows hit because he's on 4 items. Like, he is going to be hitting like a truck against anybody without armor, which is, surprise, surprise, 3 members. Like, there's none on Wukong, there's none on Glory, and there's none on Vid.
Doesn't Wukong passively get armor though?
A little bit, yeah. A little bit, but that also it requires him to be in the midst of
my god,
members.
Glory with a Spirit Rush to avoid the Enchanted Crystal Arrow on the run. Everfrost to find a slow, still trying to run as much as he can, flashes away. Nagia comes in to keep his mid laner alive, but sadly Killer Queen has already fallen. And all the while this happens, I think Vit and B just trying to push in the mid lane.
It's like they came out of nowhere right there, where Saigon Buffalo just collapsed on 2 members that were extended to the top side for basically nothing. They didn't leave either. They're actually making the prediction that those 2 are not going to make, they're not going to keep pushing and they're not going to back, so they're going to make a play against Nagia now.
Nagia chunked down to half health. Glory is around, does have a charm available, so Guri can't get too angsty. Enchanted Crystal Arrow just to zone Team Wales away.
Nice.
Saigon Buffalo will secure the final inner tower.
Yes. All outer towers outside the base are gone now here for Team Wales. They're all cracked. That's a bunch of damage. This is the Ash. Okay, so this is how they collapse so fast. Now I'm understanding. Glory! Oh! He ulted too. He lost his ult turn. Yeah, the Banshees was kicked and it prevented that from going through. But I think Glory was trying to hold the Banshees, and that's why he popped the ultimate. He basically ulted on top of himself in place in order to get away from the arrow when he just didn't need to. So that was... Didn't end up dying because of it. Like, Glory was able to get out, but it's really shocking that that decision was kind of made right there, because it was a waste of an ultimate, something that could have maybe been used on a return or something that could have been used to try to help save a teammate or something like that. Because one charge can make a world of difference when it comes to setting up a charm. If you play aggressively for 1 charge and then use the second 2 for defense, you can just walk away. But not the case. Instead, a solid pick-off, a solid burn of the Banshees, and now control of Saigon. Again, 4,000 gold advantage. Now they've got the Cloud Drake. Elder Dragon's going to be coming up here in a minute and a half. Baron has been available for some time. That's a big ultimate.
Chains of Corruption as well. 2 ultimates are thrown on to Nagia, but Taki's Enchanted Crystal Arrow will be off cooldown relatively quickly. And Saigon Buffalo trying to get control of the topside river for a Baron. And then once they have the Baron, they are going to be able to push waves and look for an Elder as well. Team Wales, their situation slowly starting to get more and more dire.
Yes, the thing you have to be careful about is that if you put too much into going to Baron here as Saigon Buffalo, you potentially give the Elder Dragon, and then you have to be very cautious about the way that you approach sieging around the map. So I would be a little bit careful if you were Saigon Buffalo here. They're going to walk at Baron, they're going to start it up. I think it makes a ton of sense. They've already knocked Nagia and B down a fair amount of health, which is pretty cool.
Taki and Shogun have both of their ults up. Once again, Enchanted Crystal Arrow is going to land onto B. Nagia chunked down, has a nice little shield, but Hasmed is on the hunt and does so much damage on this. Gwen B still alive, but just by the hair on his chinny chin chin. Hasmed now looking towards Nagia, finds the kill. Cyclone from Killer Queen, but Team Wales are on the wrong side of the map. Guri flashing forward, lands the Sonic Wave, goes golden, and there is just not enough damage from Vita. Saigon Buffalo clean up Team Wales. Killer Queen, the only member left standing. Froggy's going to see Killer Queen quite late, but will now look for a potential play and surely should be able to get a kill here.
I think Killer Queen actually is decently strong. He's 3 levels down, but he is a Wukong up against the Galio who just does not have the auto attack. Oh, you gotta clown the one-on-one like that. Come on. All right, well, they wasted the one-on-one, but that is the only thing that was necessary. The last nail in the coffin here for Team Wales was a big fight around Baron. They got baited into it. Again, they had to find a way to actually get into the pit. They tried to find a way to kite backwards towards the base of Saigon Buffalo, but Saigon Buffalo was not having it.